Okay, so in the previous video, we were doing the 3-wire control, and the 3-wire control consisted of us hitting the start push button. So again, on the front face of our box here, we've got a start push button right here. We've got a stop push button. I'm now in the monitoring mode, or I will be in 30 seconds here. And we're looking at the fact that the conveyor is not on, and we're using an XIO to say that if the conveyor is off, then turn on the stop push button light. You can see that right now, it just went green. And that this is true, so turn on the stop push button light, and our red light is illuminated right now in the off position. If I hit the start push button, then that will allow my conveyor to turn on and this start push button light as well. And we have a holding contact looking at the fact that the conveyor is running, or just the fact that this bit of information in the PLC has gone from a 0 to a 1. This is looking for the presence of 1. This is looking for the presence of a 0. And at that point, gives us logic continuity to keep the conveyor and the start on. So let's hit that guy and we'll listen to it. Let's turn up the volume here. Beautiful. And if we scroll out, then we can see that everything's rocking and rolling. It's coming from the emitter, going to the remover, and keeps rocking and rolling all day until we hit the stop push button. When we hit the stop, that will stop this logic continuity. It will turn off the conveyor and the start push button light. And if the conveyor is off, then the stop push button light should turn on. So we'll do that now. Beautiful. And you can see that this light has just turned on there. Now you'll notice that in addition to those guys, we've got some new things. We've got a siren here on the top, and we've got a warning light on the top as well. So I did that, or I added those guys on. Let me just make this full screen here. So I've stopped the animation here, and that provides me with all of my items that I can use. And if we scroll down here, then those two items are right here. So I've grabbed the alarm right here, okay, and dropped it on there. Let me just get rid of this guy. Okay, and then this warning light, I believe, is right beside it, right there. Okay, so again, when I hover over each of these items, the label comes up here. So there's the warning light right there. And so we grab this guy and put it on top of our box. Okay, so once we've done that, or once you've done that, and added on your warning light and your siren, you can see that those are now items 5 and 6. But I can determine which of my inputs and outputs correspond to those guys by doing my driver here. So I'm using the S7 1200. I've already connected to it, so I'm already talking to my PLC, so I see this green check mark here. And in addition to the items that I had before with the stop and the start inputs, the conveyor, and each of my indicator lights, I now have my warning light and my alarm siren. So all I've done is I've just grabbed, like if these guys were over here, I've just grabbed the warning light and grabbed it over, and I brought it in as Q03, and the siren is this guy right here, and I dropped it in and made it as my 4th output there. Okay, so Q03 and Q04 correspond to the light and the siren. Now, what are we going to do with those guys? Well, oftentimes when you turn on a conveyor belt, even if you're at the airport, when you turn it on, prior to the conveyor starting up, then a siren goes off, right? Like if you're standing there waiting for your luggage, a siren goes off, and then a warning light will flash as well. And then the conveyor starts there. So we're going to make use of an on-delay timer. And that on-delay timer is going to turn on both of those guys prior to turning on our conveyor. Okay, so let's take a look at our TIA portal, and let's build up our ladder diagram to match with that sequence of events, in that we're still going to have a 3-wire control, but when we hit the start button, the conveyor will not start up right away. It'll wait a few seconds. While it's waiting, the alarm will turn on and the warning light will turn on. Then these guys will turn off and the conveyor will start rocking and rolling. Okay, let's take a look at that now. Okay, so we're into our TIA portal. We've gone offline now. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to eliminate these guys, these outputs, this conveyor and the start push button. I don't necessarily want to have each of these guys turning on when I hit this input. like I do want them to turn on, but I want to have something that controls them further down in the program. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to eliminate those guys by hitting delete. And then I'm going to add in another output, but it's not going to be an actual output. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use M0.0 and hit enter. And so that guy right there is just an internal bit, in that it's like a soft relay, or just, it's an internal 0 or 1 that I can use later on in the PLC program. It doesn't control anything outside of the PLC. It's just simply a way that I can monitor whether something is true or not true, a 0 or a 1 later on in my program. So it's like an internal relay that you can use numerous times in your ladder diagram. Okay, so for this guy, I'm going to right click. I'm going to rename that guy, and that internal bit is just going to say that I'm ready to run, and that I have hit the start push button, and I'm keeping that guy on, and I'll use that later on. So it's going to be a way that I can monitor this 3-wire control. Now I need to change this now. So I'm going to click on this guy, double click, and then that M0.0 should be available somewhere here, right here. So I can click this, and now my 3-wire is now consisting of my stop, my start push button, and now this internal bit that we can use later on. Okay, so if I'm not ready to run, then I'm going to have that stop push button later on. So I'm going to double click on this guy, use that same bit. Where's that guy? Right here. And I'll use that same ready to run, and I'm going to examine that it's off. If the ready to run is off, then I'm going to have my stop push button light on. Okay, let's add in the other rungs that we had before. And the beauty of using this, like rather than just turning on your outputs, is that you can use this and a number of other logic in order to see that the complete logic is there to turn something on later on in the program. So rather than turn on an output, you can use this to build up your logic within your program. Okay, so next thing we need to say is if we are ready to run, then we're going to turn on the conveyor. But hang on, we said that we were going to have a timer go off, right? And we're going to make use of an on delay timer prior to having the conveyor turn on. So why don't we do this? Let's have the ready to run, and we'll double click on this guy. Come on. So again, M0.0, and we're going to make use of an on delay timer. There are two places where I can now grab my on delay timer. One way would be to go over here to my instructions, open up this guy, and if I follow down here to timer operations, I have my on delay timer right there. I can grab that with my left mouse button and drag it over and drop it in. I can also, what I've done is I've grabbed this and I've brought it over to this rung over here, so that TON instruction is always available up here now. So two places I can grab it from, here, and if I make use of this on and off timer quite a bit, I can drag it over to here, and each of these guys are able to grab just from this menu bar up top. So I'm going to highlight right here where I'd like the on delay timer to be, and I'm going to choose this guy right here. So I'm left clicking on there, and it should drop in that timer now. Excellent. Okay, I'm going to keep this as an automatic. I'm going to hit OK. Takes a little bit of time to come in. There we go. So it looks like the address is %db1 for my first timer there, timer 0. And right here, this PT, this is my preset. So I'm going to have this for 4 seconds. Now remember that the default for this timer on the Siemens PLC is in milliseconds, so I'm going to put in 4 seconds. There we go. Now I can make use of that Q bit here, but I'm going to have this turn on another memory bit, and I'll just make use of that other memory bit later on. So I'm going to label this M0.1 for the next sequential memory bit, and I'm going to rename that guy. And that's just going to be my TON done bit. So when the timer has finished timing out, I'm used to the Umbrella, so I'm using the done bit language rather than the Q output from the Siemens. But that is my output from my on delay timer there. Okay, so let's see. We've got the stop, the start, the ready to run. That looks good. Okay, let's download this to our PLC and see that everything's working first. Excellent. Okay, I'm not controlling anything other than my stop push button light, but at this point I just want to make sure that everything's cool and I'm able to talk to my factory I/O. So again, I'm in the run mode here by pressing run here. And if I hit this button right here, which is my start, I should see that this changes state. Let's see first whether my stop push button changes state. Okay, that looks good. Okay, so stop is coming in there. And my start, if I press this guy, then at this point, the only thing that's going to happen would be that my stop push button light goes out. Looks good. Okay. We can see here though that now that I'm in the ready to run, this timer has now timed out at 4 seconds, and now the done bit has set on that timer. So let's hit stop. When I hit stop, this will no longer be true, and this will reset my timer back to 0. So let's do that. There we go. Okay, so my red light turns back on. This is now reset to 0. And so again, when I hit the start push button, my ready to run will set, my red light will turn off, and then because my ready to run is true, this timer will then time for 4 seconds and then set this bit right here. Let's do that now. It's timing out 2, 3, 4, and now that bit has set. Beautiful. Okay, everything's working nicely. Let's keep building up the rest of our program now. Okay, so let's minimize this. Let's go back to our TAA portal and we'll go offline now. Okay, so after that timer has timed out after those 4 seconds, we'd like to turn on our conveyor. So let's put in another rung here. There we go. And we'll examine that timer done bit. So let's see, M0.1. We'll double click on the outside. There we go. So we'll monitor that done bit so that when it's set, then we will turn on our conveyor. We can also put the ready to run here as well, but that's kind of seems redundant because we've already put that here to turn this guy on. So another ready to run might be a little bit redundant. Okay, let's have that turning on our conveyor. So, and have we made use of that yet? Let's see. Okay, so we'll turn on our conveyor. And we also want to turn on that green light on the start to show that we have an indicator light showing that the conveyor is actually running now. Okay, so we'll double click here, and then we will choose our start push button light, which was Q0.1. Beautiful. Okay, conveyor was 0, start push button light was 1, and those guys correspond to our outputs here. 0 and 1, 0 for the conveyor, and 1 for the light, 0 for the conveyor, 1 for the light. Looks good. And then we're going to make use of, let's see, we've made use of this guy for output number 2. That's good. We're going to make use of output 3 and 4 for the warning light and the alarm siren. Okay, let's do that now. Okay, so we'll go back to here. So now what we want to do is when we hit that push button to go into the ready to run, the time between that start push button being pressed and the done bit setting on our timer, we'd like that alarm, let's go back here, we'd like this alarm and this warning light to be energized. So let's do that. We'll say that we'll put another rung in here. Okay, and you'll notice that so far I'm just doing like a linear program in that everything's all in the same program here. I'm not doing subroutines or bouncing back and forth. We're just doing a sequential, timing of each of the portions of our circuit now. So let's see, we want to have it where we have placed the circuit into the ready to run mode, but the timer has not timed out yet. So we're looking for the fact that the timer has not timed out here. And at that point, we'd like to have the alarm go off, and we'd like to have that indicator light go off as well. Okay, so this guy right here was our ready to run. So we'll hit the ready to run, and not only have we pressed the start push button, but the timer has not timed out. And so that timer, we're making use of %m0.1. There we go, right here, the ton done bit. Looks good. And that guy is going to turn on. Good memory, but it's short. What was that? 3 and 4? Yeah, so 3 was the warning light, Q03. So we'll label this guy Q0.3. And then we'll relabel this. And that guy was, what did they call that guy? The warning light. Okay. Okay, and then Q04. Double left click on the outside, and we'll relabel this guy now. And that guy they have called the alarm siren. You can change these names, but we might as well keep them for now. So alarm siren 1. Beautiful. Okay, so we've labeled everything. Everything seems to be cool. Looks good. Okay, let's download that to our PLC. And I believe that's everything that we need. We'll find out in a few seconds. Okay, looks good. Let's get rid of this noise here. Let's open up our TA portal. I forgot to put this in monitoring mode. That's good. So we see orange here. We see logic continuity. So as soon as we turn this on, the stop push button light will turn on. Is anything else firing on now? No, nothing else yet. Okay, we can see that the done bit has not set. So this is true. And the stop push button is a normally closed, so this is true as well. Anything that is green is telling you that it's true, waiting for the logic continuity to go through there. Okay, so let's see if we can make this a little bit smaller here. Let's go to maybe 80%. We know this portion right here, so let's scroll down so we can see this guy right here. Looks good. We'll bring up our animation here. Let's go back. Looks good. And so we'll reset everything. There we go. And let's turn up the volume. And let's get this guy rock and rolling. So now if we hit the start push button, that should turn on our ready to run. Our timer we saw was timing out for 4 seconds. In that 4 seconds, hopefully we have the warning light and the alarm siren going off. And then once it's timed out, then we'll have the conveyor running and the start push button light illuminated. Let's do it in 3, 2, 1. Gorgeous. That thing was loud. I didn't expect it to be that loud. Right on. Okay, so now we're rocking and rolling. Everything's going to the remover. And now it's just acting as a standard 3-wire control. We have this button right here for our start, illuminated while the conveyor is running. And so now all we have to do is just hit the stop and it should stop the sequence. Okay, so now that we've hit this stop push button, you can see that the red light is on and you can see the logic continuity here. We're looking that the ready to run is off. It is in fact off, so the stop push button light is illuminated. And the other thing to notice is that because this is a 0 in the memory, then this is no longer true. This is an XIC, and it's looking for the presence of a 1 in the memory. Because this is a 0, then the timer is not activated anymore. And this is a non-retentive timer. So the time base, or the accumulated value has gone down to 0 now. Okay, when we hit the start push button, I've reduced the volume down so you don't have to reduce yours. When you hit the start push button again, then the whole sequence should start up again. And again, we should have that 4 seconds where these guys are just screaming at us, and then the conveyor is going to turn on. Ready in 3, 2, 1. Beautiful. And now that the accumulated value is the same as the preset, then this memory bit has turned on, M0.1. And so M0.1 now turns on our conveyor and our start push button. And then we can see that that takes out this logic continuity, so the warning light and the alarm siren now go off. Alright guys, nice job. So we've now built up, we started off with a 2-wire, we did the 3-wire. We got each of these lights working, this stop and the start push button light working. And now we've taken care of a TON, or an on delay timer, and had that controlling our warning light and the alarm siren. Sweet. Alright guys, so if you got this going, nice job. Next thing in our sequence of exercises to do would probably be a TOF timer or an off delay timer. So keep going to the playlist and we'll tackle that next. Alright guys, thanks for your patience. We'll see you in the next video.